Welcome. Monica Dubé here. We're going to do lesson 66 from the Course in Miracles. It's called My Happiness and My Function Are One. Powerful lesson. Take a listen. Ready? We're going to jump right in. So you've surely noticed an emphasis throughout our recent lessons on the connection between fulfilling your function and achieving happiness. They're not just connected. You don't really even see the connection. But there's more than just a connection between them. They are the same. Their forms are different, but their content is completely one. The content is one. So your happiness and your function are one. They're the same. And now the ego does constant battle about this, right? It's always giving you an objection to that idea. And it does constant battle with the Holy Spirit, the mediator between you and God, on the fundamental question of what your function is. So it does constant battle with the Holy Spirit, what your happiness is. That's all it does, is wage a war upon you, upon yourself. And it's not a two-way battle. Here's the thing to remember, is that the Holy Spirit's really here to mediate between you and God, to correct your mistakes, to correct your errors in judgment, and to correct your mind that has thoughts that are unlike love in your system, right? Fear, guilt, suffering, anxiety, and sacrifice. All of that is part of the ego thought system. And this lesson gives you the way out of all that, okay? Every lesson in the Course does, but this one especially does. It's not a two-way battle, because the ego will attack and the Holy Spirit does not respond. He knows what your function is, and your happiness is your function. That's what it is. You can't be happy if you're under attack. You can't be happy if you're always defending yourself. You can't be happy if you think other people are out to get you. And you can't really be happy if you're in survival mode, which most of us are, right? So it's a very important point, because if you don't really get that you actually have power over that, you'll stay in there. Okay, and we do. We stay there until we realize, oh, I have power over this. I have freedom. I can create a life of ease and not disharmony, not attack, defense, right? So let's just look at this. The content is completely one. In other words, the content of your mind that the Holy Spirit sees comes from God. So it's happiness, freedom, love, joy, peace, and belonging, connection, oneness, unity. That's what God created. He created a world of unity. Okay. And that's what's real, in the sense that everything else is a construct. It's something that you and your human mind have put there. And that's what the ego thought system is. It's always doing battle with God. God just wants you to be happy. God's like giving you this whole beautiful place to come and experience limitation, experience the expansion, experience the contrast, but not to suffer over it, just to experience it and go, oh, wow, there's that. And let go and forgive and be free. Okay, so that's what it is to be human, right? We're always going through these upsetting moments, right? And lesson 5 is, I'm never upset for the reason I think. I put it there. I'm bound to that idea. If I think it's because of blank is happening, that's why I'm unhappy, or that's happening, or that happened in the past, that's why I'm unhappy, then you're stuck in that. But the Course says you're never upset for the reason you think. And you're never really upset for anything that's actually there. It's just what you have created or put there, made up, right? So let's look at it. We're going to try to go past this wholly meaningless battle and arrive at the truth about your function. We're not going to engage in senseless arguments about what it is. We're not going to engage in becoming hopelessly involved in defining happiness and determining the means for achieving it. We're not going to indulge the ego by listening to its attacks on truth. All right. And I know you have them, right? We're identified with this body, so we have egos. And those egos are always trying to you're trying to be God, basically. You're trying to usurp the power of God and control everything and make yourself more important and survive. in a world of bodies. Nothing wrong, doesn't work, that's all, just doesn't work. So we will not become hopelessly involved in defining happiness or determining the means for achieving it. We will not indulge it in the attack. So we will merely be glad that we can find out what truth is. Isn't that great? That's all this course does. It gives you the sense of, oh, I can find out what truth is. I don't have to live in this world of attack. I don't have to live there anymore. I have the power of my mind to live with freedom, to live with ease, to live being alive and not on the attack or on the defense. Okay. So this might sound really crazy, but there is a way to live in this world that isn't in the attack defense mode. And that is by you being very connected and at peace and knowing that you have power over your thoughts and your internal state of mind. You do have power over that, I promise. Our longer practice period today has as its purpose your acceptance of the fact, this very, very fact, that not only is there a very real connection, but the function between the function God gave you and your happiness, but they are exactly the same. They're identical. So that means you have to define God differently, right? God gives you only happiness. I remember reading this, thinking in the course, when I first found it, it was like all my ideas about God and sin and him condemning me and being cast out of the garden, all of those ideas just were gone. Now, it took something because I, was raised in a very religious family, which I don't regret. I totally love it. But, God giving me only happiness was a new idea. It might be a very new idea for you. And it might upset you and it might cause you to think, well, is that really true? So God does give you, in my view, only happiness because that's love is just extending love all the time. Just always extending love and peace, harmony, and joy. And if you didn't have any belief system that would refute that or be in opposition to that, like if you had no fear in your mind or no guilt, you would never suffer, right? But we do have that system. So we're undoing it now with this thought. My happiness and my function are one. This is the whole point of the course, is to just undo these thoughts. Okay? So therefore the function he gave you must be happiness, even if it appears to be different. Even if it appears like he didn't give me only happiness, he gave me all this other stuff I got to deal with. Okay? I know you think that. Of course you do. But today's exercises are an attempt to go beyond these differences in appearance and recognize a common content where it exists in truth. A common content. So what does that mean? Let's look. Begin the 10 to 15 minute practice periods by reviewing these thoughts. 1, God gives me only happiness. 2, he's given me my function. Therefore, my function must be only happiness. He gives me only happiness. He's given me my function. So my function must be happiness. It's logic. So try to see the logic in this, even if you don't accept the conclusion, and you may not, and that's totally fine. I'm not forcing you to believe anything here. We're looking, right? We're just looking at what you believe and whether it works for you. Okay, because you have a choice in what you believe. That's your whole freedom here, is your choice to believe what you want to believe. Your choice to be the light of the world or not. Your choice to forgive rather than hang on to agreements. Yeah. So the question is always, do you like the result you're getting? Because you're always getting the result of your thoughts. Do you like it? Are you willing to let go? Are you willing to give up your anger and your grievance and your wish that that person would change or do something different so you can be happy? And it never works that way, because happiness is within your power to choose for yourself, no matter what's going on. Try to see the logic in this, even if you don't accept the conclusion. It's only if the first two thoughts are wrong that the conclusion could be false. So let's think about the first two thoughts, right? The first premise is that God gives you only happiness. This could be false, but in order for this to be false, it's necessary to define God as something that he's not. So you'd have to define the creator as something other than love, which would be what? The opposite of love is evil. Okay? And God can't give what he doesn't have. And so love cannot give evil. Does that make sense? Love, if pure love cannot give evil, it's just love. It's just always extending and creating. So what is not happiness is evil. God cannot give what he does not have, and he cannot have what he is not. This is so powerful. I hope you get this. Unless God gives you only happiness, he must be evil. Something other than happiness. Untruth. And it is this definition of him you are believing if you do not accept the first premise. Okay, that's it. Second premise is that God has given you your function. You may not believe this now, and it's totally cool if you don't. Just recognize it. I don't believe that. I think God creates good and evil. So therefore, you see a world of good and evil, and you live there, and you justify your position in that. And I get it. I'm not trying to fix that or make it different, because it's a big one, right? It's a really big one. I'm not denying there's evil in the world. I'm denying that God created that. I'm not. The Course is. Okay. And I happen to believe this because I've experienced so much light and energy and healing of my mind that if I choose to believe that God is love and not evil, then nothing's out there trying to get me. Nothing's out there coming at me and trying to attack me except my own thoughts. Okay, I don't want to believe in a God that's going to attack me. It just doesn't work for me at all. No, not for me. It's not my God. So the second premise is that God has given you your function, right? So there are two parts of your mind. One is ruled by the ego, and it's made up of illusions. The other is the home of the Holy Spirit, where the truth abides. God put the Holy Spirit there so you could have connection to him and could find your way back to that oneness without freaking out too much. Like a gradual release of your thoughts. Because to go there all of a sudden, it might be way too much for you. Who knows? Most people get there gradually. It's just kinder, right? Softer, a little more gentle toward you. And it also is up to you how much you want to receive at any given time, how much you really want to experience, how much love, how much peace, how much forgiveness you really want to experience. And most of us say, oh, I want it all. I want it all right now. No, you don't, because if you did, you'd have it. We're actually afraid of that. We're afraid of the total burning up love of God, because it's so different from what we've been experiencing. Okay. Until you're not afraid, until you're willing to not sacrifice, but surrender. You're willing to surrender to the truth of who you are, to the higher power, to the creator, willing to let go of your thought system piece by piece, then you still have to deal with that stubbornness, that identity, that place of, I already know, right? I have that. I already know everything. It's really arrogant, right? But it's there. I already think I know everything. So there's no opening for me to be healed. There's no opening if you think you already know everything. There's no way in. So there's no hope until you see it. Wow, but I don't know, it still doesn't work very well for me to be unhappy. And the Course asks you, do you want to be right or you want to be happy? Which is it, right or happy? It's where the rubber meets the road here. All right, one is ruled by the ego, one part of your mind. The other is the home of the Holy Spirit, where truth abides. There are no other guides but these to choose between. No other outcomes possible as a result of your choice, but the fear that the ego always engenders, or the love that the Holy Spirit offers to replace it. I remember when I first read this, I was like, oh my God, this really works. Yay. And my depression disappeared. Yeah, it did. It's tempting to pick it up again, right? Because I'm so used to it, but I didn't want it. I wanted to be free. I was desperate enough to choose to be free in every moment. And I read a lesson every day for years. Why? Because it makes me happy. It makes me free. It makes me happy to know that even though I might think I'm right, that ultimately I'm not right. Not if I'm unhappy, not if I'm suffering, not if I'm powerless. This gives you your power back by letting go of the problem you keep creating for yourself, letting go of the problem. It must be that your function is established by God through his voice, or is made by the ego which you have made to replace him. So that's it. Those are your choices. Your function is established by God through his voice for you, or it's made by the ego which you have made to replace him. Which is true? Unless God gave your function to you, it must be the gift of the ego. You don't have anything, there's no in between. There's no place on the fence where you're somewhere in between God and the ego. No, you're either in the world of the ego or you're in the world of God. And they don't meet. The two worlds don't meet ever. Okay? Which is a happy thought, isn't it? Because you can always choose. I need a miracle right now. I'm going to have a miracle. I'm going to have a release of where I'm holding on to something like a grievance, resentment, anger about the past, whatever it is, or worry about the future. Just drop it for now. Just drop it for now. You can pick it up again if you want. Just drop it for now and let it go. That grievance you were holding on to, just drop it. Why? It doesn't bring you happiness, right? Nobody else is suffering over it, but you are. And I get this isn't easy for people. This is going to challenge you. Good. I want it to. Because I wanted to be challenged when I was in deep doo-doo. I mean, it was like, oh, it's like being committed to suffering, to your own viewpoint of everything. Being committed to that just brings you more of the same. Okay? I don't want that anymore, and I hope you don't either. So, all right, where are we? Think about this during a longer practice period today. Think about the many forms the illusion of your function has taken in your mind and the many ways in which you tried to find salvation under the ego's guidance, like being right, holding on to a grievance, being angry. And I'm not saying it's wrong. Nothing is wrong with this. It's just different. It's a different system. It's a closed thought system, the ego. God is like free, giving you freedom from that, giving you the love to forgive with, the mind with which you forgive, the mind with which you think. God is giving you the strength with which you can operate your life, come from, and really come from, like as a context. God's always giving you that because it's what you are. He created you that way. Hello. Do you want to experience that? I hope so. I do. All right. So did you find it? Did you find happiness under the ego's guidance? Did they bring you peace? Did it bring you peace? We need great honesty today. This is really one of the lessons that'll just piss you off because you got to get honest with yourself. Did your fixing things or making your, changing this and changing that, I don't know what it was you changed, to give yourself more happiness. But did it work? And if it did, great. But did it give you eternal happiness? Like forever and ever? Like a constant and abiding peace that you can rely on in every moment. Did it give you that? Because that's what God's giving you. Okay, so remember the outcomes fairly and consider whether it was ever reasonable to expect happiness from anything the ego ever proposed. Yet the ego is the only alternative to the Holy Spirit's voice. So you get to listen to the Holy Spirit, the voice of peace, the voice of forgiveness, the voice of love, the voice of gentleness, kindness, oneness, joy, or the voice of the ego, attack, defense, attack, defense. Which would you like to have? Just be honest. Because a lot of times, no, I want to be right. Have at it. You already do. We already have lived there for centuries. And this is our homecoming. This is the letting go of the construct of human identity. Wow, really? Yes. Piece by piece by piece to give us peace, right? Let go of that thought. Oh, if that hadn't happened, then I could be happy. Let that go. Because happiness isn't about the past. It's not about the future. It's about right now. What would you like to experience? You will listen to madness or hear the truth. Try to make this choice as you think about the premises on which our conclusion rests. We can share in this conclusion, but in no other, for God himself shares it with us. Yeah. Today's idea is another giant stride in the perception of the same as the same and the different as different. So the same, the thought system of God is love, happiness, and peace, joy, and oneness. And on the other side is the illusion. Truth stands on the other side, right? So one side's the illusion, one side's the truth. Let's try to realize today that only the truth is true. That's a big statement, right? Only the truth is true. You kind of have to accept that that's what truth means. It's true. And so if truth is true, nothing else could be true, just the truth. Or the truth wouldn't be true. Always and in every instance, right? So this is why it's sort of an all or nothing. Do you want everything or do you want nothing? It's up to you. In the shorter practice periods, because I promise you, your illusions are nothing. They're just constructs of your own thought system. It's what makes up your identity, but they're just constructed out of mind stuff, right? It's just out of they're just your thoughts. And you put them there and you can let them go because you have all power. So you can choose to have them or you can choose to let them go. Take a deep breath. I want you to feel that. Wouldn't you like to be free of that old story you got going on, that old tired thing that you can't let go of, you can't forgive? I mean, take a look. It's just not very happy, right? It's not happy. You have power over that. Okay. So in the shorter practice periods, which would be most helpful today if undertaken twice an hour, this form of the application is suggested. Here we go. My happiness and my function are one because God has given me both. That's it. My happiness and my function are one because God has given me both. Therefore, I have the choice to be at peace. It will not take more than a minute, probably less, to repeat these words slowly and think about them a little while as you say them. That's the short practice period. My happiness and my function are one because God has given me both. God is love. Tap your heart center a little right now and just feel it. Feel it a little bit. Feel your heart start to open and breathe into it. I've been doing some Kundalini yoga. It's so nice because it really opens your heart. It's all about opening the heart and feeling the energy of your heart system, or not just the heart, your whole energy system, and freeing your heart from where you're blocking it, or where it's being blocked by your thoughts and beliefs and your patterns. It's physical. It's very physical. Okay. So be with it with me for a moment and just breathe into the heart center and just feel the energy of this lesson. My happiness and my function are one. And because God's given me both, they're one and the same. God has given me both. So I get to have that. I get to be that. I get to be the light of the world. Lesson 61. I get to be the light of the world, which you are already, whether you embrace it or not. It's still true what's true about you. Remember, truth is true and nothing else is true. God didn't create evil. God created light. Let there be light. In the beginning was the word. Let there be light. So therefore, that's what you are. You're an idea in God's mind. Everything else is thoughts, beliefs, stuff made up. Whatever you got, right? Whatever you got going on right now, that's not peaceful or happy. You've put it there and you can release it. You can let it go. I promise you, you have the power to do that right here and now, or I wouldn't be doing these lessons. Just ask yourself, is it possible to actually live in light? Is it possible to actually live with freedom? Is it possible that I could be happy all the time? Is it possible that I could choose what I am or who I am going to be? My power. I have the power to choose what I want in any given moment. Is it possible that that's what God intended when he created me? I hope so, because that's what I want. And I'm willing to let go of everything I put in the way. Removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. That's the entire purpose of this Course in Miracles. We can't define what love is. We can't give you a concept of it. It doesn't have a concept. It's an experience beyond feelings even. It's an experience of perfect wholeness and oneness. That's always available. Except when you get your egoic thought system in the way, which you do, of course we do, we keep releasing and letting go. I really thought that guy did this to me and that I'm bad and wrong because that happened. Often it's our own judgment of ourselves that we can't let go of. That's really the deepest pain that we experience. It's our own self-judgment. So have a look in the mirror once in a while and tell yourself, I forgive you for that. I forgive you for believing that you did this terribly bad, wrong thing and that you're never going to be happy because of it. I forgive you for that. Really talk to yourself about it. I want you to acknowledge it. Say that to yourself. I want you to acknowledge that you are whole and complete and that you don't need to hang on to that anymore. I want you to acknowledge what it would feel like to let it be undone for you. Let it be undone for you. I'm not saying what happened didn't happen. It happened, but just accept it. Like it doesn't have to have power over you anymore. Just release. Okay, that's to me what forgiveness is the acceptance that it happened. Yep. I'm not saying enough. It didn't happen. It did. You separated from God in your mind. Yes. You lost communication. Yeah. That's why you were in a dream. Okay. But this release, this constant letting go of the suffering you keep creating about it, because you keep the story going. That's the only reason you're suffering is because you keep the story going about it, right? So it's up to you to let it go. Just completely let go of the charge of it being so terrible or so bad or so wrong. Okay, because the evil is just your thoughts. It's your belief system. And you have a choice to love and forgive and be the light of the world for yourself and your family and the people that are around you. Believe me, they're going to like you a lot more if you let go. Everybody will. right? Because they're going to feel the energy, your energy's shifted. You've let go of something you were holding on to for a long time. Your function is only happiness. Your function is to love and forgive. Right? How many times? 70 times 7? Like a lot. Just keep doing it. My happiness and my function are one because God has given me both. Thank you. That was the lesson for today. Lesson 66. I hope this supported you. I love you. And cheers. I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye for now.